everyone, I'm Melissa from Knitting the Stash, and this is episode 31 in the podcast series. Welcome. It's nice to see you again. For anyone who's new, this is a podcast about knitting and spinning, and I usually work on things like garments and garment modifications, pattern modifications, so if you're into that kind of thing, you're in the right place. If you are coming back, thanks for coming back and spending some time with me. It's always really lovely to see you all and take some time out of our schedules and spend some time together. You can find me just about everywhere as Knitting the Stash on Ravelry and Instagram, and on YouTube obviously, and on the blog, which is knittingthestash.wordpress.com. And in today's podcast, I've got a lot of really great stuff for you guys. It is, most of the podcast is an awesome Irish yarn fest. I've got Irish yarn, Irish patterns, Irish everything. So it should be really fun to talk to you about what's going on, some of the things that are going on in Ireland, and one of them, in fact, is a giveaway for you guys. So some straight yarn, some yarn that's straight out of Ireland, that's harvested there, milled there, everything, dyed there. So I can't wait to tell you about that giveaway. I have a finished object. I have some fun stuff from the mailbox, and yeah, it should be a good time. So let's jump right in. For those of you who have been watching for a couple of episodes, you know I've been working on the Spice Market shawl, and this is a really popular Melanie Berg pattern, and it is a very large triangular shawl. I'll pull it off the mannequin in a minute so you can see it, and it's taken me a couple weeks to knit up because I'm working on it in between a test knit for a sweater that I'll talk about in a minute, and that's part of the Irish yarn invasion. But this finished object, to give it its due time, is knit out of Jennifer Guyer's beautiful Wild Lily Artisan Fibers Pace and Presence yarn, which I've been talking about on here for a few weeks now. Jennifer was kind enough to send a little care package over the holidays of beautiful yarn, and once I saw the colors and everything that she sent, I thought, oh, it needs to be this shawl, because I've been wanting to make this shawl for quite some time, but I never had the right mix of yarn, and Jennifer's colors are just, they're too gorgeous to pass up. So let me show you a couple of them. And the best part is I modified the shawl so that it would be small enough, because I like a little smaller shawls, and to use up exactly the yarn that I have. So this is all that I have left of Jennifer's yarn. There's one neutral here, and then there were 6 other different colors. There's kind of a teal, a couple of greens. Can't see the red. The red must have been in the bag, but you'll see the red in the shawl. So that's all that's left. So it was the perfect amount for this this shawl. And the yarn is a 2-ply, and you can get 300 yard bumps of these neutrals, such as this one. And it's a beautiful neutral. It's showing up really well there, I think. And then all of the different colors, oh, here's my red. All the different colors come in 100 yard bumps. So you can do lots of fun color work kinds of things. And I had 6 100 yard skeins of the colors, all different colors. And I had 1 300 yard skein of the natural. And it was perfect to make this shawl. And the only modification I made really was that instead of doing 4 of the repeats in this slip stitch section, I only did 3 for each color. And that just meant that I had exactly enough yarn to make sure that I got through the whole shawl. So let me pull it off and give you a tour of the thing that is my new beautiful shawl. And it won't be mine for long. I've got a little plan for this one. This is a triangular shawl, so you start down here at the corner with this beautiful, I started with Jennifer's turquoise, moved into a kind of mossy green. This is a darker green, a beautiful kind of light lavendery purple, dark purple, and there's the red. The red is just gorgeous. And for those of you who are dyers, or those of you who are yarn connoisseurs, you know that getting a red like this, dyeing a red like this can be really difficult. And Jennifer, you did a beautiful job on this red. It's just glorious. And all of the dyes were completely color fast. I mean, you can imagine the nightmare that would be a shawl like this if you washed it with all these different colors, and if they weren't color fast, it would just bleed and be, ugh. Nothing. Great. Perfect. So well done, Jennifer. Then you get into, after the stripes, you get into this slip stitch kind of bobbly section. And I will admit, I've never been a fan of little bobbly things because I'm a tight knitter, and when you go back in with your needles to kind of manipulate all those little bobbly stitches, it's always too tight for me. No matter how much I concentrate on being a loose knitter, it never works. So I will tell you that this little middle section here gave me a few fits, but I got through it, and you can see this yarn shows up really well for color work. It does some cool things. And then towards the end, you go back to these longer stripes that are punctuated by a little bit of the neutral in between there. Right, you can see that? Really cool. And they're kind of decreasing in size or width, so they get narrower as they go. All right? So it is quite a beauty of a shawl, I must say. I'm very happy with how it turned out. And as I said, I have a plan for it. So I'm pretty excited to send it off to its recipient and see if she likes it. So that'll be a little bit of a surprise. I've got to take some final FO shots for me and put them up on my Ravelry page, but then it's going in the post. So that's my finished object for the week, and I'm gonna actually switch out the mannequin real quick, so I'll be right back. Okay, mannequin change over. I'm back. And now it's time to move on to some whips and to talk a little bit about some of the cool Irish designers that are out there and Irish yarns that I've been working with, and I can't really wait to tell you about all of them. So what you see on the mannequin here is a test knit that I'm working on with Albina of LB Handknits. And if you haven't checked out Albina's patterns or webpage, you absolutely should. She has beautiful sweaters, accessories, socks, and she has a great blog where she's been sharing tons and tons of great yarn reviews, technique, instructions. She has just so much support up there for knitters and so much, like a really great aesthetic for her patterns. So check out what she's doing. Not only because of all those reasons, but because I have a giveaway for you that's going to send you over to her website to check some things out. So we'll get to that in just a minute. But let me tell you a little bit about this test knit. I've been cleared to talk about it by Albina, so this is all good. Usually test knits are kind of somewhat secretive, but this one, she's been posting about it on Instagram, the older version of the sweater. This is Sunny Everyday version 2.0, and so I've been kind of working up a version of it based on instructions that she's been sending, and we've been kind of chatting back and forth about different things about the sweater. I absolutely love the way that it's coming out so far, and this is knit out of, let me just say first, this is knit out of a Donegal tweed. I've got it up here on the top of the mannequin. So I've showed it to you guys before. It's this beautiful kind of robin's egg blue with all the tweedy bits in it. And the yarn is a singles, but it's almost like a little bit felted, so it feels really sturdy. And I've talked to Albina about, she has a couple of garments that she's knit out of this yarn, and she found that the yarn has lasted and kind of stood the test of time just fine. And a singles yarn for sweaters is sometimes, you wonder about it because the plies are, plied yarn is really helpful for abrasion and things like that. But Albina said she has a pair of hiking socks that she's knit out of this yarn, and they are doing great years later. So I think the slightly felted quality of this yarn and the fact that it's a worsted weight helps a lot. I think it knits up beautifully, and it shows texture really beautifully. Right now you can't see the cables as well because this whole sweater needs to be washed and blocked, but eventually all of these beautiful cables at the top and the yoke will open up and kind of spread out a little bit. So this is a seamless top-down cardigan, and you can see here that the button bands are included in the actual knitting, so the whole thing just kind of comes together beautifully. The sleeves are seamless, everything's seamless, so it's one of these patterns that's really like, by the time you get to that last stitch and you bind everything off, if you've woven in your ends all along, you're done. Everything's finished. You can just put the sweater on. I mean, you should wash it and block it, but you could just put it on. And with a sweater like this, I kind of am tempted to just put it on because I've tried it on to see how the fitting's going, and this whole top yoke part it just feels so, it sits on your neck so nicely, and it just feels like you're getting a big hug. Let me show you the back. You can see here. I've got my, when I test out the kind of fit of top-down sweaters, I often throw my Addy interchangeable bar in here and kind of connect up longer cords to each other so that the whole sweater can kind of sit nicely. So what you're seeing here is a little bit of a flare because of that bar that's in there. You can see the back has this beautiful cabled yoke, and it kind of goes down toward your waist and your hips, and it's a nicely it has a lot of ease built into it, I think, for certain portions of it. It's meant to be kind of a little bit snug around the bust and then to kind of flow downward, and I'm finding that the pattern is working out just that way. I love the way this yarn is looking, and the light is really picking it up nicely right now. You can almost see all of this cable-y pattern here. And I do love this collar, how it kind of sits perfectly on the neck. So this is the test knit, and I don't want to say too much more about it right now because we're in process, but I'm really looking forward to getting the next set of instructions and working down the bodice and seeing what happens with it. Now, I will say this is Irish Yarn Invasion number 1. Albina is she's located in Ireland at the moment. She's been there for a little while now, and you can read more about her story on her blog, which is really fun. It's fun to learn about folks and like where they came from and how they came to the craft. She actually has been knitting since she was a child and didn't really work from patterns up until maybe just a couple years ago, and now she's writing patterns, but she has this real intuitive way of knowing about how fabric is going to work and how garment construction could work out for something like a seamless sweater. And so to be able to do a test knit with someone who knits more intuitively like that, it's just a great experience and a process for me to see through her eyes how that kind of fabric is going to work out and what she thinks about garment construction and design. So it's Albina, thank you for including me in this wonderful process, and I think the sweater is turning out beautifully. Now, Albina has also designed many other beautiful sweaters and accessories. The one that I also have the yarn for and started swatching for is this lattice pattern, which I've showed you guys on a couple of occasions. We'll see if we can get the light to show it up here. Yeah, there you go. It's a beautiful, beautiful sweater with cables, and you can see the neck design there. I think it's picking it up pretty good. Yes, yes, yes. We've been watching a lot of Zach George videos for puppy training, and that's like the running joke in our household right now. It's just like if the dog does anything good, or if either of us do anything good, we're like, yes, because that's exactly what Zach George does. Anyway, silly inside joke. So this latest sweater pattern, which is also designed by Albina of LB Handknits, is one that I have. It's where I started actually when I first got to know Albina. It was because of this sweater, and she tagged me when the pattern came out, and I was super excited. I just bought the yarn for it. And you'll notice, astute knitters may notice, that the cable-y pattern that is in this sweater, if it'll show up there, is a kind of elongated version of the cables that are in this sweater. So there's a kind of nice symmetry to the projects that I'll be working on. I went ahead and swatched for this project because I was pretty excited about it. And I swatched for this project with S-twist wool, which is the wool that's called for in the pattern design. And I want to talk to you just a little bit about S-twist wool. Now, S-twist wool is straight out of Ireland. It is called the subtitled Irish craft yarn, and there's a very good reason for that. If you guys haven't checked out S-twist wool yet, you absolutely should. And this S-twist wool is kind of brainchild of Derma Commons, and he is working out of Tipperary and Dublin, I believe, and he has his yarn in a couple of shops out that way at this point, and you can pick up this yarn from LB Handknits website, or from those yarn shops if you happen to be in Ireland, or if those yarn shops are selling online. The cool thing, there's so many cool things about this yarn. So Sarah of Fiber Trek is always talking about soulful stash, yarn where you know where it came from, you know about the sheep and the people and the place and all that kind of stuff. And I haven't been to Ireland. My husband's been to Ireland. He did a bike trip in Ireland when he was younger. He just biked over everywhere. And his mom's family is Irish, and so he he really loved going out there and hanging out. And now we've kind of got a plan to go to Ireland, and I've met so many great people in this fiber community that are from Ireland, including Albina, there's Helen of Crawcraft Beasties, there's Kate of Hawthorne Cottage Craft, and now there's Dermer Commons of S Twist Wool. So it's like, and one of my first cable teachers was Carol Feller, and she's based in Ireland. So it's kind of like Ireland is like the place to go if you're interested in this kind of stuff. I feel like Ireland and Scotland are two of those places where I really have always wanted to be, and I've gotten to Scotland, and now I really want to get to Ireland. So one of the cool things about S Twist Wool, I mean, speaking about a soulful stash, is that Derma Commons is working really hard to source his wool in Ireland, to mill it and process it there, to dye it there, to spin it there, so that it's really truly an Irish wool. And a couple of cool things about his process that I want to mention. One is that he uses the fermentation or suet method for washing fleece. And for those of you who are less familiar with that, I posted on my blog a long time ago, and there are a couple other blog posts that I will link to help kind of explain the process. And maybe this is a place where Anna of the Dunkelgrunn podcast could get in here a little bit. She's a chemist, and if you haven't checked out her podcast, you absolutely should. But because she's a chemist, she talks a lot about how dyeing works and how wool works all at the molecular level, and it's super interesting when she does. So Anna, maybe the fermentation suet method is something for you to explore in a future podcast, if you would. So what I'll tell you is what I know about the fermentation suet method process, which is basically you take your greasy fleece, you put it in a bucket or a tub or a barrel full of rainwater, and you let it sit for a month. And the fleece kind of cleans itself because the sheep sweat mixes with the kind of wool grease, lanolin, some of the salts that are in the sweat, something like that, and creates some kind of soap equivalent that then helps break down the grease in the fleece and leaves it a little bit less lanolin rich than when it first goes into the bath, the suet bath. Now, it won't take out vegetable matter, this process, you know, that doesn't get broken down. And so you will notice with this kind of yarn that you will have a little bit more you know, bits of hay and things in there, but that's great because this is soulful stash. This is like, you want to know where your yarn came from. I want to know like that the sheep were hanging out in the pasture, basically. But he uses this suet fermentation method, and one of the cool things about it is that if you've ever washed fleece, you know washing fleece uses so much water. Hot water, soap, you're thinking about washing all that stuff down your drain and into the sewer system and all that kind of stuff. The fermentation suet method doesn't require any of that. You just put your wool in a bucket and let it sit. It is a little smelly from what I understand. I haven't done it yet, but it's great for kind of processing big quantities of fleece, or fleece that you don't really want to wash because you're not in a situation where you have a lot of hot water or a lot of water that you can use to wash your fleece. Just put it in a bucket in the backyard with some rainwater. There you go. So that's one cool thing about his yarn. The other is that, at least in the beginning, when he was first putting together S Twist Wool, he was spinning a lot of his yarn himself. And that meant that he developed a kind of electric spinning wheel that could process, allow him to process his hand spinning much faster. Now, I think he's switched over method-wise to a milling process at this point because he's had so much demand for his yarn, and his yarn is in, I think, 5 or 6 different shops in Ireland. I know you can get it online through LB Handknits website, but if you're interested in a truly Irish yarn, straight from Ireland, Irish sheep, processed there, you know, dyed there, check out S Twist Wool. Now, and S Twist Wool is the yarn that Albina of LB Handknits recommends for her latest sweater. And so I swatched it up, and this is how it came out with 5mm needles, size 8 US. And you can see there's a really beautiful kind of variation in the dyeing process. It reminds me a lot of when I dyed my Shetland, overdyed my kind of brown Shetland wool for my Alias sweater that I love and wear all the time. And this wool reminds me a lot of that Shetland wool that I used for that sweater. It feels like it's going to be perfect for a kind of outerwear garment. So if you're one of those folks that really likes a kind of really soft superwash merino wool, this isn't going to be maybe the wool for you. It's definitely a little more rustic. But if you're someone who cares about where yarn comes from and you want to actually get down and use a yarn that was, you know, really environmentally responsibly produced, that you know the place it came from, you know the person who kind of saw it from fleece to skein, and you're not put off by a little bit of vegetable matter, a little bit of you know, guard hairs, things like that. This is great. It's perfect for outerwear. It's going to be strong and durable, and it's going to be a really beautiful garment, and I can't wait to kind of knit it up. Now, I will say, with the 5mm needles, I did not get gauge. I need to go down, act down. For me, that's kind of weird. I know. I need to go down a couple needle sizes to get gauge. So I'm going to work on that today, and then I'll probably cast that sweater on just to get it going as I'm working on this sweater. So I'll have two of Albina's LB Handknit designs on the needles at once, and that seems like a pretty fun projects to have going. And as long as we're talking about all this Irish invasion yarn, the coolest part is that I get to send one of you some of this. So when I first talked to Albina of LB Handknits about her patterns, she offered to do a giveaway with us, and then she talked to Joe McCommons about S-Twist Wool, and so the giveaway is for both a pattern from Albina and a skein of yarn from S-Twist Wool. So this is the skein of yarn, which I think it'll show up there. It's this beautiful kind of foresty green, right? Same weight and everything as the yarn I was just showing you that I just swatched up. So the pattern that Albina is offering up is the latest hat, and this kind of goes along with the latest sweater, and here it is. And it's a beautiful, really simple cable design, really elegant looking. Takes one skein of yarn, and it calls for exactly this yarn. So the giveaway winner will get this skein of S-Twist Wool to check out straight up Irish yarn, and that beautiful pattern code for Ravelry from Albina. So all you have to do to enter is leave a comment on one of the places online where you find me. So there'll be a Ravelry thread. You can leave it in the comments here on the YouTube video or over on the blog once I post this episode. And what I'd love for you guys to do is to just visit LB Handknits website and tell me which of her patterns you find most inspiring. It can be a sweater, a pair of socks, an accessory, whatever it is. I want to hear in the comments which one you find most inspiring. And that's it. You'll be entered to win the beautiful hat and skein of yarn. Speaking of giveaways, I have one to announce for you guys. I might as well do it now. And this was the giveaway for Dynamics yarn. And this is Mars and Adachi, the mother-daughter duo that I featured in an interview on the blog maybe a month ago now. And this is Fruitcake 2017 edition, and this is Raw Honey. And this mother-daughter duo specializes in natural dyeing, and this beautiful yarn is a silk and wool base. It is 50% merino, 50% silk, and I'm giving away both skeins to two different winners. And I did a random number generator, and two winners. One is, I'm just going to say the Ravelry name, CDAMBROW. I'm not going to try to pronounce that as a word. Was the first winner, and Angelic Embers was our second winner. Each of you won a beautiful skein of this Dynamics yarn. I've messaged you on Ravelry, and if you can get back to me with your postal info, I will send this yarn right out to you so that you can get knitting with it. Okay, so those are our giveaways. What is left for the show is I've got some stuff in the mail that I wanted to share with y'all. So, last little bit here. You guys know we've been working on the Knit Together project for quite some time now. I've amassed a lot of squares. And if you're interested in getting involved in the Knit Together project, it's all the info is up on the blog on knittingthestash.wordpress.com/KTP, and you can read all about it there. Basically, all I'm asking is you send an 8x8 square with a story behind it, and you'll be entered to win the finished blanket. And the blanket is being made up of all these squares from all over the world. And I just received a couple more in the mail this week, and I thought I would share them with you. So this one, yay, look at that beauty. This one came from Louise, who is actually a native Australian, and she sent this to me from Berlin when she was in Berlin for a little while over the holidays. And she's knitting Poppy on Ravelry and Instagram. And here's a little bit about what she said about this square. She said, "Dear Melissa, thanks so much for the opportunity to take part in the Knit Together project. I used the LB Icelandic yarn as I've been living in Europe for 6 months and exploring the many yarns available here. I loved reading about the history of their yarns, which they started producing in 1896, she says. Let's see. She wanted to knit in stripes for the squares. She says, they remind me of home, Australia. Big sky, big blue sky, blue sea, and orange-red earth." So I think you captured it very well, Louise. It's a beautiful square. Thank you so much for sending it along. That is like going to be an awesome addition to the blanket. Straight from Berlin via Australia. And I have one other square that came in the mailbox. And this one is a bit of a mystery. So I'm putting out the call to all of you who are watching the podcast to try to help me. If you sent this square, let me know who you are and what the story is behind it so that you can be entered to win the giveaway. It is a cool square, and here it is. It's great. It's beautiful cables. Looks like a little owl, right? And all I know about this square is that it came from someone with the last name of Smith, from Ashburn, I think it's Virginia. It might be Vermont. Handwriting's a little hard to tell. I think it's Ashburn, Virginia. So if you are a Smith living in Ashburn, Virginia, and you sent me a square with a little bit of a beautiful owl cabled on the front, please let me know the story so that I can enter you to win this giveaway. I hope more of you will get involved in the Knit Together project. We have a big bin of squares sitting behind me, and I'd love to add to it. I love seeing your squares come in the mail and reading your stories about them. So please keep them coming, and I'll keep you up to date on the Knit Together project as we go along. The other work in progress that we have is the remake project for 2018. So if y'all are already on board with that, that's awesome. There's a Ravelry thread started. And basically what we're doing is taking our old sweaters, our grandma sweaters, our big box store sweaters that have either fallen apart or aren't made of quite the right material, and we're remaking them in 2018. So I'm running a series on the YouTube channel where I'm doing a bunch of instructional videos about design and garment construction, and I'm calling it the Better Sweater series, and that has gotten underway with the first video. Hopefully the next installment will be in a week or so, and we're going to be talking about design considerations for remaking your sweaters. So that is a big work in progress for 2018, and it will be the remake along is all year long. So if you want to get involved, start at any point, that's wonderful. There will be prizes along the way, and there'll be a prize at the end for, and I'll draw from everybody who's completed a sweater. So it should be really fun to see what you guys come up with, see which sweaters you want to redesign, and get you guys involved in the remake along for 2018. Let's see, what else do I have for you? Oh, I have one more thing, and that is something that came in the mail as well. I often talk about books, and I've been asked to kind of talk about books a little bit more on here. And I, in fact, have a book coming out, which I can't wait to talk to you guys about, but I think it's going to have to wait another couple of weeks. So I'll let you know about my new book in a couple of weeks. But I've been hitting up the library as usual and checking out all the new knitting books. And one that I found that I don't think has gotten too much press, but should be getting more press, is Ulla Enquist's Knitting Details. I don't know how many of you have seen this one. It is a pretty slim volume, and it is a kind of design technique book with a little bit of a flavor of a stitch dictionary. And what I love about it is, unlike a lot of the other technique books that I've read or kind of looked at, she provides so much clear instruction about how you do things, why you do things, and what things look like depending on how you've chosen to do them. So for example, here we're talking about seaming and different stitches, and you can see she provides great photographs that kind of show you what you have or haven't done, or what will be the effect of what you've done. She has a little tutorial on Kitchener stitch here, where she gives you both what it looks like in the actual yarn and a kind of diagram of what you're actually doing. And I think that's something that's really important for knitters to know, is the kind of nitty-gritty of what knit stitches look like. So here's another of her diagrams. And I think it just really goes to show you how knitting works as an actual, like what you're actually doing with your yarn as you're knitting up. And she has great pictures here. So this is like grafting and linen. She'll show you how it looks. It's a wonderful book. It's like a total technique book, totally helpful if you like me need a little help to kind of visualize what it is that you're actually doing when you're doing certain kinds of techniques, or you're trying to figure out which technique you should be doing because you're not sure exactly the effect you're going to get. Terrific book. Really, really love this book. And in fact, yeah, I buy a lot of books, but I don't often buy them if I can get them at the library, you know? And I can get this one at the library, but it's so useful. I just want to have it in my own collection and kind of refer to it a lot and really look back at it. The designs, the pictures, the descriptions are all so clear and really, really helpful. So consider adding it to your wish list or bookshelf. And I think that's it for today. It was a lot of Irish yarn, Irish dyers, Irish designers, and it was really fun to take a little trip through Ireland today on the podcast. So I hope you enjoyed it. It was great to spend a little time with you guys, and I wish you a lot of happy knitting and spinning until I see you again in a couple weeks. Take care.